Hello, welcome to 15 Minutes of Consulting Best Practices. My name is Maria Isabel Rios, and I'm joined by David De Fields. Hello, David.
I'm Isabel. Happy Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day.
Happy Monday.
And happy Monday. I don't know if people are on holiday or here. Hopefully people are here. If you're here, say hello, so we'll know you're here.
Exactly. As David was alluding to, this is a space where we actually see and address your comments, your questions, and it helps us to know you're here. You're also welcome to comment and add your insights about how to create growth, delight, value inside your consulting firms and your experiences related to any question that gets asked. We basically are here for you and to answer questions that you've submitted via one channel or another. And we're happy to do that. All right. So to get us started today, Jaron, we had a question left over from last week. Suzanne had asked a question. So if you can please pull it up, we'll address it to start today. Okay, this question. Good morning, John. Thank you. This question is for you, David.
Okay.
I've decided. So how do I set my rates using a value-based approach for marketing and market awareness deliverables where the value is difficult to quantify? Okay, so this comes on the tails of a discussion where you were advocating for asking deeper and deeper questions as part of the context discussion in discovery, right, around value. And you were advocating towards eventually getting to a number, right?
Yeah.
So Suzanne is saying fuzzy,
typical marketing.
To wrap your arms around. What's your take, David?
Yeah, so typical marketing. You don't want to be quantified. So I'll continue to advocate for measuring it and for understanding the impact. I mean, awareness building, for instance. What's the value of another prospect or another being aware of your brand? I grew up, I started in consumer products and in marketing. So, we tracked awareness, but there was a reason for it. I mean, we could justify spending to build awareness because it should translate into sales. Now, that said, so I want to continue to advocate for really pressing your clients to understand why they are doing it, what bottom line impact it has. But that said, even more important for our purposes as consultants, as trying to win business, is to understand the relative value, to get an order of magnitude of the value of the problem that you're solving for them or the aspiration you're helping achieve. Is this a $1 billion issue? Is this a $100 million issue? 10 million, 1 million, 100,000? Is it about $10? In which case, why are we talking? Right. And you can ask your prospects that. You can say, well, give me like some sense. I mean, is what we're talking about worth $100 million to you or $100,000 to you? Because if it's a $100,000 issue, I don't want to work on it. We want to work on engagements that create big value for our clients. And by doing that, you can at least get it close enough in the range to set your fees. Because if it's $1 billion win, you're still not going to be able to charge $500 million or $150 million for your consulting project. You'll fail the fairness test. So their fee tolerance will be the upper bounds. That's my thoughts. Marie-Isabel, want to add anything or disagree?
I am completely with you. And I also think it gives you a sense of direction, right? Say the opportunity, the value, it's $200,000. Then you might explain to your client, look, then we would approach this project in a more standardized way. We'll do less customization. So the fees are lower. So you can get a great return on your investment, right? So there's also the room of how do you tackle the problem? What would you do differently if it were $1 billion problem versus a $100,000 problem? Understanding that both problems are or could be very important for clients and for different clients, right? And not one problem is better than the other, at least on the surface.
Excellent. Fair. All right. Jaron, since I answered the first one and no one's posted questions, let's see what's next, and we'll make Marie-Isabel answer it. I'm a solo consultant with a healthy practice. A larger, more established consulting practice wants to overflow clients or have me subcontract. Okay, got it. What are the most important questions I should ask? I assume you mean ask the prime. Also, the larger consultancy wants me to use their name, branding, and logo when I work for their clients or attend events they're attending. Says Jenna, who emailed this in. All right, Marie-Isabel.
Okay,
Jenna is
Jenna.
being asked to sub. So what do you think?
Well, congratulations, right? There's an opportunity there, and it speaks to your expertise, or it speaks to the larger consultancy's needs for capacity. In both cases, good for you for being at the right place at the right time with the right knowledge. So I think there's two elements at play in here. Having had been in your shoes in the past, as most of us at some point that have grown from solo consultancies probably have been. One is what you want. Another is what you must have in order to move forward. And be very clear about the difference between the two, right? Also think about what your client needs and what would make the engagement more productive for the client, what allows you to deliver better value for the client. So I imagine if you were looking at it in a vacuum, why are you thinking you've asked? You come in with your firm name, with your email address. You make it very visible that you have a firm that specializes in certain work. That may work for some large consultancies where they see that you're not playing in the same field that they are, right? So we see people accepting this where, say, I have an operations consultancy and you're an expert in strategy. So do I do strategy? No. Do I want to appear like I do strategy? Maybe not, right? But I am willing to bring you in as an expert in strategy and then allow you to run it under your firm. The most common scenario we see is where people say, no, right? This is our client. We own the relationship. We don't want another brand or another firm name at play in this relationship. And that's where the distinction between what you want and what you must have come into play, right? If you must have your firm name, then that's out of the question. If you are willing to compromise there, then agree also on how you're going to communicate that you're not a permanent team member or solely working with a large consultancy, that you come in for this piece of work or that you're subcontracting for this piece of work, so that you are transparent. For me, there's three questions that are perhaps even more important. Who owns the IP?
Yeah.
IP that you bring into a project, you want to protect it. You want to make sure that you walk out of the project with your IP, and the large consultancy uses it in the context of this project and cannot use it for any project where you're not delivering your own IP, and likewise for the client. Another big question is whether you're allowed to reference this work directly or indirectly, right? Whether you can say, I work with General Motors or I work for this. That's another key question to resolve. How and in which context and how are you going to reference the work that you're doing? And what are the boundaries of the non-compete? That's the third question I would ask.
Right.
Mike
mentions this too in a comment, that understanding the non-compete, non-solicit is
right.
important. Yeah.
And be very nuanced in your discussion, especially if you're talking, either a client is a big corporation, you can be more nuanced than say, okay, Apple or Apple, devices or Apple, whatever, a certain type of apps. You can be nuanced in what's in and what's out of the non-compete and what's the expectation if new projects come up. So hopefully, Jenna will give you some indications of where you want to land in each of these things, and then ask a bunch of questions. David, what do you think?
Well, I think that's good framing. I think understanding whether you're truly getting overflow work that they do themselves versus work that you do and you're known for and they're not known for, that makes a big difference. So if it's overflow work, working under their banner makes it simpler for the client. That's right side up. It's not about you, and it's not, frankly, about the prime either. It's about the client. So do what's best for them, and be honest, and walk that line. So I think you're right. and exactly what Mike brought up. Yeah, make sure you're protecting your IP and know where you can follow on for business. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, cool.
If you have follow-up questions, anyone who's watching, just feel free to put them in, or different questions. Otherwise, Jaren, what's next in the bag of tricks?
Okay, David, Debbie asks, how do I expand my network beyond the 2 clients where I'm entrenched?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good question. I mean, we see this a lot. Right? So if you're entrenched in 2 clients, you have a lot of portfolio risk. We have seen folks get as high as, well, actually, there's no limit to how large a firm you can become and have portfolio risk. We know of a firm that was 70 million, and more than half of it was coming from one client, and that one client went under, and they are less than half the size now, building back. So you do want to be really aware of it. So good on you for asking. Basically, here's the thought I would throw out there for you: is you're not actually entrenched in 2 clients. You're entrenched in 3. The 2 clients that you're aware of, that you can name, their logos, and there's another client, which is called New Bizco, or that's how we would refer to it. And New Bizco, which is your business development efforts, is in many ways your most important client. And you need to honor it as a client, which means if you make commitments to that client to show up, to do certain things, to do outreach, whatever your commitments are, you live up to it, just like you would for a client that has a logo you can publish. So do honor New Bizco. That client will treat you the way you treat it. If you don't show up for meetings, you don't honor commitments, then New Bizco won't reward you with engagements. On the other hand, if you do honor it, you'll get engagements. All of that said, you need more introductions, it sounds like. So you need to ask for introductions outside of those 2 clients. Start reaching out to folks, build relationships, create visibility. So create your brand. Make sure you are present beyond those 2 clients, which means doing webinars, doing podcasts, doing all the things that people do now to be visible, putting in place the 5 marketing musts. And if you don't have much of a network because you've been really entrenched, I would focus on collaborations. Who does have a tribe, who does know other people, and then you can collaborate, do something fun with them. That's my initial thoughts. Marie-Isabel, anything you want to throw in there? And if you're listening, any follow-up questions?
I think absolutely 100% with you. One element that I would note is always be thinking about what's the next step in terms of your business development and in terms of your collaborations and in terms of asking for introductions, so that you don't ask for an introduction and then let it linger and never happen, or you don't set up a collaboration and you have a great event where you haven't yet thought out, okay, how do you then build the connection with the people who are at the event and turn them into actual connections for you and for your network.
Yeah.
So what is your next step that follows?
I think that's really fair. So it is important to understand the full process, to think about your client experience during the pursuit phase and have your processes mapped out for that. As you said, have good follow-up, to do collaboration, and then know what you're going to do after that collaboration creates leads. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And with that, Marie-Isabel, it's crazy, but we're already at the bottom of this half hour. So it was nice to see you, Marie-Isabel. You're looking very bright. I like that whatever that is. That's very red. I can't tell whether it's a sweater or blouse, but I like that. And for the rest of you, I don't get to see you, but I'm sure glad that you're here, either live or later. Some notes, just make sure you do have Monday Live in your calendar. Jaren, if you can throw, there we go. That way you're back here every week with us because we want to see you. If you don't receive our articles, then make sure you're subscribed. And one other thing. If you happen to run a practice under $1 million and you haven't been part of a solo practice accelerator, I highly, highly encourage you to join. They're really extraordinary events. There aren't many seats though. So go to the link here that Jaren put up, register if it's open, or get on the wait list if registration isn't open, because it's a pretty amazing program. And that's it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here, Marie Isabel. Thank you for being here, the rest of you. Have a fabulous week. Remember, consulting's about them. It's about your clients, about your prospects. So give them value and give them kindness. And we will see you next week.
Ciao. Thank you.
Take care all.